Hey, I'm Paul, and this is my animation attic. Lately, I've been taking trips to my local aquarium and sketching the amazing animals and habitats. I've also been looking into how their lives are changing due to increased carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. I'm turning it into a story. A lively story starring the marine life itself and the actions you can take to reduce CO2 output. I call this series Blue Impact. Well, I did some research on climate change and found that it's mostly due to the increase in greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. It's like a heat-trapping blanket that's getting thicker. I was surprised to find that scientists have known about this for a while. Like, check out this old gem from the 1950s called Unchained Goddess.
Due to our release through factories and automobiles every year of more than 6 billion tons of carbon dioxide, which helps air absorb heat from the sun, our atmosphere seems to be getting warmer. This is bad.
When we drive, our engines ignite, putting out exhaust, which contains CO2. So this CO2 floats up into the atmosphere and joins with other gases, making a sort of blanket around the world. And the more CO2 we make, the thicker the blanket gets, and the more energy gets trapped in our atmosphere. Well, we actually need some blanket to keep us warm. But over the past 60 years, we've seen a 30% increase in the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere, mostly due to more humans and more activity. Almost every aquarium has colorful, hypnotizing jellyfish displays. As I was sketching them, my pen followed their soothing, pulsing rhythms. And then, when I read up on them, I began thinking of the most annoying sound on Earth, Pac-Man. So imagine the ocean is like a maze, and the jellies are Pac-Men, and other animals are the ghosts, and the power pills are food. As the water temperature rises, oceans become more hospitable to jellies and less friendly for their predators. There's less oxygen in warmer water, which, as I mentioned, is no problem for jellies. And the warmer oceans mean a longer jelly growing season. We end up with skyrocketing jelly populations. You see, under normal temperatures, the ocean's water molecules move like they're doing a slow dance. Nice and easy. And a lot of them can fit on the dance floor. But pump up the jam, and every one of those molecules starts moving, pop-locking, getting down and taking up a lot more room on the dance floor. That spacing out of faster molecules is exactly what thermal expansion is, and one of the major reasons oceans will rise in the 21st century as they inevitably heat up. I was just sketching the beach exhibit and noticing the tiny circle of life there. The fish, the plants, and the birds, all in perfect harmony. And then I read about the incredible journey shorebirds take to such habitats, to such stages. This shorebird travels 9,000 miles each year, from its nesting grounds in Canada to its wintering grounds in Tierra del Fuego. Along the way, the red knot always returns to a few key migration staging sites. You can actually think about these stopping points as stages because of the intense drama that unfolds when they get there. Here you can see what a real stage looks like. Literally thousands of red knots descend on this beach every May. They are literally starving from their 5,000-mile journey from their previous staging site in Brazil. At the same time, thousands of horseshoe crabs are emerging from deep in the bay to lay their eggs on the sandy beach. The stage is set. The knots feast and feast for 2 weeks, gobbling down 25,000 little eggs a day. and going through one of the most radical weight gain diet plans in the animal kingdom. Oceans will rise as they get warmer. Studies suggest that by the year 2100, between 20 and 70% of today's coastal mudflats, like the one in the Delaware Bay where the red knots and horseshoe crabs meet, will be underwater. Also, since the blanket is trapping more energy in the atmosphere, that means storms will become more extreme and disrupt coastal staging areas. So climate change will cause the red knot's feeding ground and the horseshoe crab's mating ground to diminish. With the same number of red knots in a smaller area, there's simply not enough food, and the shorebird populations decline, as some birds simply won't have the energy to complete the grueling round trip between wintering, mating, and feeding grounds. Many aquariums have stunning displays of coral. I found myself missing some of my brighter pins to capture their true colors. But then I found out that some coral in the wild are also missing their true colors. Check this out.
I'm Randy Rogen. I am mostly a coral reef biologist. So there are definitely places when I dive where I know every single coral head, the same way you'd know your garden or your yard where you'd know every plant. After a while, what you really begin to look for are changes. I notice when there's something new going on in my backyard coral reef.
So Randy starts noticing these changes in this reef she dives in all the time. Certain coral, year to year, is losing its colors. It's a tragic love story that starts deep inside the coral tissue. So here you can see that coral actually has a partner, an algae known as a symbiote. These symbiotes love to snuggle up to coral, providing sugars in exchange for the coral's yummy nutrients for the symbiotes to feed on. And it's the symbiotes that make the coral's brilliant colors. All happy and lovely until the blanket gets heavier and the ocean gets hotter and higher in CO2 content. Higher temperatures slow down this nutrient transfer process, and more CO2 in the water makes it harder for coral to maintain its structure. The coral and symbiote relationship begins to suffer. The coral is left naked and white or bleached. No more snuggly symbiont to shack up with. Oh. Like any breakup, coral and its symbiotes can get back together. But when they don't, it's called catastrophic bleaching and can lead to coral death. So on the globe, we have this whale who is following this twisty path. Actually, the whale is looking for food. They eat a very specific species of zooplankton called a calanus copepod. These little guys are smaller than a grain of rice, so they're like 50 billion times smaller than the whales that eat them. But right whales eat a lot of copepods, which give them energy for a long migration and other essential activities. You see, water temperature differences actually create ocean currents. Cold, salty water from the north is more dense and glides under the warmer water from the south. It's called the Great Ocean Conveyor. And food collects where these water masses meet, kind of like at a cloverleaf on a highway where traffic can get congested. But with more blanket, the transit system gets out of sync. It's like the highway is under construction and the cloverleafs are moving to different locations every year. So warm oceans mean copepods are no longer clustering where the whales expect to find them.